said, "This MAGA country," punches me right in the face. So I punched his ass back. I noticed the rope around my neck and I started screaming.
Why did you hesitate to call the police?
There's a level of pride there. As a gay man, you were considered somehow to be weak, and I'm not weak.
Jussie Smollett defiant when interviewed by ABC News last week. Well, tonight this developing story appears to be unraveling even further for the Empire star, now facing a felony charge in connection with a false police report. Time now to bring in our power panel to discuss. Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall and also Fox News contributor Guy Benson, plus senior politics writer for U.S. News and World Report, David Catanese. Thank you all for being with us tonight. Great to have you.
Good to be with you.
Hey,
Thank you, Shannon. All right, I want to start by reading something from The Atlantic. It says the Smollett story, if the trajectory leads to evidence of fakery, would actually reveal something else modern America is about. Victimhood chic. Future historians and anthropologists will find this aspect of early 21st century America peculiar, intriguing, and sad. Guy?
Well, it definitely is sad and it's strange. We don't know exactly what motivated Jussie Smollett to do this, but his story seemed very implausible, I think, from the get-go. With the MAGA detail, the performance on ABC News was practically sociopathic, given what we know now. And I think what bothers so many people is not just that he made up this hoax of a hate crime, which is terrible unto itself, because it takes police resources away, it sows fear, it sows resentments. In the process, he and other people who amplified the story in certain ways tried to implicate by extension a third of the country, half the country, smearing people as dangerous or violent based on political disagreements. This is sort of the perfect storm because he's this celebrity who's made this claim, and I think he's in more trouble than just filing one false police report with the Chicago police. The feds are involved too. It could be a world of hurt for Jussie Smollett, and he deserves it. Yeah, and Leslie, tonight, of course, his counsel points out, in this country, you're innocent until proven guilty. These are allegations and charges by the police right now, so we stand by for the rest of this. In the meantime, Newsday says this: when someone lies about being a victim, it makes it that much harder for the next person to be believed. That's not debatable. It's just the truth. Leslie?
I'm so glad you asked me that, Shannon, because this is, to me, one of the saddest aspects. You do have those in the gay community, gay men, African-Americans, African-American men who are gay, who are attacked. And in the future, people are going to raise an eyebrow the next time somebody says, look, I was the victim of a hate crime, potentially, or there was a noose put around my neck, regardless if somebody is saying anything that is pro-Trump or wearing a Make America Great Again hat. What makes this so disgusting is African Americans, specifically African American men, and those in the gay community, whether gay men, lesbian women, trans, and the LGBTQ community, are victims of violence in our society. And if in fact this is true, he has taken away from those victims and for claims for future victims, and that's just horrific, especially for these segments of these populations in our society.
Well, and David, a large swath of the media has taken a beating in this as it plays out too.
Yeah, I would say three things. I'd say the first thing is I'd reserve judgment. The media jumped on his story and went with it, and now we're jumping on the police story. So I want to hear the whole case before I make a judgment. Second thing I would say is if he did lie and do this interview, as Guy said, that is sociopathic, and that says more about him. And I think the third thing is a media lesson here. We're in a culture that we jump to the story. We're in a 24/7 cable news network, Twitter, Facebook, and the media needs to put more brakes on the pedal before we make proclamations about any case, even but beyond this one.
Yeah, okay. I want to make sure we ask you all, too, about this phenomenon in this case now involving a woman who was born in New Jersey, joined over to go to ISIS, had apparently 3 different jihadi husbands. 2 of them were killed in battle. She says she's got a young child now, but she wants to come back to the U.S. The State Department is saying, no, she was never a citizen. So there's a dispute now about that, these documents that have been tweeted out. The lawyer, Hassan Shibli, tweeted this out. He says these are documents, proof that the U.S. government knew that as of September 94, Hoda Muthana's dad was no longer a diplomat. She was born at the end of October 94 in New Jersey. At real Donald Trump has no authority to strip Americans of citizenship. Hoda wants to surrender to the legal system. But Leslie, as we saw in her interview there, she wants therapy, not jail.
Well, I think she needs a lot more than therapy, and there has to be punishment here. But I do think that we could learn a lot from this girl, and let me tell you why. One of the areas that we have a real problem, if you ask any counterterrorism expert, is with the radicalization through the internet. And that's what happened to her. And if she can talk about what appealed to her, what sites and, what the interaction was. Also, who she was married to, what they were discussing, what they were planning. I think this person could be a plethora of information. I think she was a young, impressionable teen. Teenagers have done, as you know, pregnancy pacts or run off with convicts, and I think we should hear her out. And then, in addition, if in fact she was born in New Jersey, whether her father is an American or not, she's an American, and her child is an American, and we shouldn't punish that child for the sins of their mother.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, David, she says she was brainwashed, she was naive, she was young, and she's learned her lesson.
Yeah, I don't see the case for someone who adhered to ISIS and who proclaimed themselves to ISIS. I think it's a really tough case. Also, politically, I think this is golden for President Trump to seize on and say he's tough and strong. And frankly, I don't see anyone out there, anyone in the ether, politician that's coming to her defense, which I think says a lot for her case.
Yeah, there are teenage mistakes, and then there's joining ISIS, right? These are not one and the same. I think it is a material fact whether or not she is a U.S. citizen.
That'll have to be debated.
That might be, a question in terms of whether she has certain rights. But if she is one, let's just say, and the State Department's wrong, and she does come back, therapy is not going to cut it. This was aiding and abetting ISIS, the terrorist organization, and to make it about the child that she has back home, she's responsible for her decision, and that decision was a catastrophically bad one.
Yeah, and apparently her legal team is filing in federal court on the citizenship question, so we'll watch and see as that plays out. But they also say she wants to surrender to federal authorities, so I think that they'll probably go beyond therapy if that happens. All right, Power Panel, thank you very much. If you'll stick around, we have more to discuss with you after this break. LGBTQ advocate and tennis great Martina Navratilova in hot water for saying that men who transition to become female and then play on the women's tour are cheating. So now this outspoken activist is being shunned by many on the left. The Power Panel weighs in on that. All right, back with our Power Panel, Martina Navratilova, who battled insults and stereotypes throughout her legendary tennis career, at the center of an LGBTQ firestorm tonight. Our Power Panel graciously sticking around for this. So welcome back to all of you. I'll read a little bit from an op-ed that Navratilova wrote. She said, "A man can decide to be female, take hormones if required by whatever sporting organization is concerned, win everything in sight and perhaps earn a small fortune, and then reverse his decision and go back to making babies if he so desires. It's insane and it's cheating. I'm happy to address a transgender woman in whatever form she prefers, but I would not be happy to compete against her. It wouldn't be fair, David."
I mean, I think she lays the case out pretty well. How you identify in your gender, I think, is becoming more accepted in society. But frankly, this is about having a different body. Males and females have different bodies. And frankly, the U.S. Olympic Committee has standards about testosterone levels. And if you're a trans man, it doesn't matter. But if you're a trans woman, to compete, you have to be below a certain testosterone level, because that has impact on the strength that you have to compete. She is obviously suffering the backlash, but I think if anyone was able to bring the case to the public, it is her with credibility.
Yeah, and she had been with this group, Athlete Ally, and they issued a statement saying this: the LGBTQ community is not a monolith. We must always leave space to learn from one another and to grow. If we fail to do so, we are not only failing our goal to advance LGBTQ equality as a whole, but failing to live up to the core of our potential as human beings who believe all of us deserve a place in sports and in this world. And Leslie, a number of these groups are breaking ties with her or disavowing her position after she was pretty much a pioneer and out there as one of the early advocates for a lot of these LGBT issues.
And I think that's why so many people were surprised that she, of all people, was the one that said this and said what she did. Especially, David, thank you, because that's a point that I was going to make, which actually would assuage any fears that she or other athletes have about a trans woman because of the testosterone level and because of the rules in these professional sports. I understand what she was saying. I know a lot of people have that concern in the athletic world, in the athletic community, but because it as her, and because there is such a sensitivity and more acceptance and a zero tolerance toward negativity in the LGBTQ world, I'm not surprised at the backlash, and I was very surprised that she said what she did, being her.
All right. I believe this is from the New York Post. The title of the article, "The Insane Gay Backlash Against Martina Navratilova," saying this: even with hormone treatment, transgender women have more muscle mass and bone density and higher levels of oxygen-carrying red blood cells, which aid athletic ability. That's a real issue, especially at the high school and college levels where students are also competing for scholarships. So now this longtime gay icon is being ostracized for her heterodoxy by those she so vigorously championed when it was professionally risky. For shame. Guy.
Yeah, so she was a trailblazer, and she is making a case. She said something like this a while ago and came under fire. She went back, did more research, and came out swinging again, saying, I believe even more that this is the case. And there's some of the science behind this. It's not just hormones. It's not just testosterone. There are questions about muscle mass and other advantages that a biological male might have. And I think there's a lot of Americans, increasing number of Americans, who want to fully respect the dignity of trans individuals, treat them with respect, treat them with the pronouns that they would prefer, and all of that. And you can respect that. There is a separate question when it comes to athletic competition. What is fair? What is not fair? And I think that the types of questions that are raised by this tennis star in the LGBT community, she should not be shunned and thrown out of the community because she's raising completely reasonable, legitimate questions that ought to be discussed and debated. And the answer should not be, you shut up, go away. The answer should be, actually, let's have this conversation.
All right. Guy, David, and Leslie, thank you for having the conversation with us. Great to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.